And what do you see from this group?
Well, character is going to be very important to what we do and players that we bring in, and there's again, there's some players that have good abilities and everything else, but didn't measure up character-wise. That we decided not to pursue, or we stopped pursuing because of issues that arose. And this group from a character standpoint is a good group. It's a group that, like I said, when we had, I think it was 15 of them in here one weekend in December, and just the camaraderie and the bonding that you saw taking place. I mean, again, it was something that's what you're looking for, and that's what we're going to continue to look for. And like I said, I think they all understand exactly what we were looking for, and that's what you want. You want people that want to make a difference, and these are players that want to make a difference.
Coach, do you think there's anybody on this list who's kind of a sleeper that could surprise? Last year you had a kid like Alex Twine who nobody knew about, didn't have any stars next to his name, and came in to play for you as a true freshman. Do you think maybe a guy like Petty or Stephon Houston are guys that nobody's really heard of or didn't have a lot of stars but are ball players that could come in and help?
Well, I mean, I think they all can help. That's why we recruited them. But again, Sean Petty's a guy which I think, when you mentioned Sean, Sean was a quarterback and did play linebacker, and Sean is an extremely good athlete. I had a chance to watch him on the basketball court, watch him move on the court and watch him do things. I mean, he's a leader too. So again, I think a guy like that coming in and now being a linebacker, because you haven't heard from him there, would have that opportunity. Stephon Houston is a tremendous athlete. A guy, Avery Thompson, is another guy who's a long guy, athletic, and again, he's going to grow into his body a little bit more. And when he does, I think he's really. And again, there's another guy that just blows you out of the water, with how he conducts himself, how he handles himself, and but again, I think that I mean, you even take a look at a guy like Quentin Jefferson, who's here now, and he's up over he's 250 pounds now, and he's filled out, and due to the medical situation that he had, wasn't able to enroll in the fall. But then again, he when I went out to see him, I mean, the thing that happened with him, mom and dad, he was working the graveyard shift, Best Buy, unloading trucks and everything. So you talk about a young man who has a better appreciation for everything that's going on, and he had to work, so now he knows how getting his education and doing the things that you're supposed to do. He's much more mature because of what he had to go through, and again, he's very grateful to be here. But like I said, he learned a lesson there. He had to work and saw that. And he said, hey, it was impressive just sitting down with him and asking him what he learned through that whole thing. Same thing with Laverne Jacobs. I had a chance to sit down with him when he came in for his visit, and impressive about him was that we have, when we bring the players in for official visits, they sit down with the director of admissions, and he interviews them because we're supposed to, and then we also have our academic support people sit in with them too, so they have an idea and an understanding of who these players are, and then they get a better feel for it. But the thing that was impressive about Laverne, his father was with him, and Laverne's told his dad, stay out, I'll handle it myself. And went in and sat down and talked to Britt, and just had a great conversation. And then when he came in with me to talk to me, did the same thing. Told his dad, you stay out, I can handle it, I'll talk to coach. And then just asking him questions about what he learned through the year in terms of prep school and what he went through. Just very, very impressive, sitting down and talking to him and hearing his explanation of how, you know, he grew so much more. And these are the things that you don't, and the general public doesn't get to hear. But those are the things that are impressive, that tells you, you know what, that kid's going to be very good. You know, he's going to get it done. And you know, there's stories that I could tell you about, you know, each and every one of these guys. You know, I mean, you know, Nick Brigham and Mike Medeiros, you know, they've already got a pack. They're not never going to wear long pants. They're going to wear shorts every day of the year here and everything else. I mean, just some of these little things, but the bonding, you know, that's already taken place, you know, with these kids is really, really special.
Go back on the ring. Randy, last year you played a lot of freshmen. I know that was because of injuries, but was that a good selling point for you this year to be able to tell freshmen that they can come in and have a chance to play?
Well, you know, everybody has a chance to play, you know, coming in. And again, last year we did have those injuries, and but again, when I go into the home, and when my coaches go into the home, and we talk to them, hey, the best guy's going to play. Everybody's going to be given that opportunity, you know, to be able to come in and play. And then if they're the best guy, they will play. And you know, I think that you know, people appreciate that. And then what happens is you build more competition. You know, that makes you all better because everybody's working harder, and they know that I can't let up because I got somebody behind me. But I think a lot of these players saw an opportunity to be able to get on the field early, and then, as I always tell the players that are here, is that it's your job to make sure that they don't get on the field.
Do you look at Kenny Goins as an offensive player, defensive player, or somebody who's up both ways?
No, we got Kenny slated on the offensive side of the ball as a fullback. You know, that's where we see him as fullback. You know, especially the other thing that I think is important is I think we've helped ourselves from a special team standpoint immensely. When you take a guy like Kenny Goins, and then you take a look at the number of linebackers that we have in this class, I mean, that's the one thing. That's a lot of where fullbacks, tight ends, your linebackers, and then, you know, your backup wide receivers, those are the people that are going to be your special teams guys. So I think, you know, we've aided ourselves in terms of our overall ability, in terms of, you know, covering punts, kicks, you know, punt protection, you know, punt return, with the athleticism and the number of, you know, like linebackers, fullbacks, tight ends type guys that we're going to be, you know, having in the program.
Coach, I know you have one more official visitor to go. I know you can't comment on him, but how many more people do you anticipate you could potentially add to this class?
From a number standpoint, in terms of the NCAA, would really be 3, because of the ability to, you know, count back, because we weren't at the max scholarships last year, and then the numbers that we're allowed to bring in this year. So I think we would have, you know, 3 in terms of initial counters for what we would be able to have. I don't know. You know, again, it's one of those things where if there are players out there that can make us better, then we will go ahead and pursue that. If we don't feel that is there, then you always have a carryover to next year.
Coach, could you talk about Abner Logan? He's a 4-star guy that some recruiting analysts think might be even better than that. He plays in Massachusetts, which is not known as a football powerhouse state. Ben, second, did you know about him from your time in Connecticut, I'm wondering?
Well, I mean, you knew of Abner being up there in that area, and you know, he was a guy that was a full running back and linebacker in high school, and went to the Dexter School, and he was really a man amongst boys in that league. You know, well put together. You know, again, a young man who has his head on straight. You know, physical, works hard. Is a guy that loves to play the game. Again, he was one that we targeted early. The sad part about this whole recruiting process, most of these guys were all locked up, way back in the fall. And, today was, made it official, but, you knew who you were getting. But, Abner's just a guy that there's no doubt that he's going to be a leader. He's a guy that'll be vocal. He's an extremely hard worker. So, and again, that's an area where we find players that we like. Then we're going to go ahead and recruit. He fit the profile that we were looking for.
Coach, 3 players from Georgia out of the, it's kind of out of the basic, Maryland, Virginia, Pittsburgh area. Can you talk about the success of getting 3 kids from there, and maybe Atlanta as a future hotbed?
Atlanta has good football and good academics, and plus it's an easy plane ride from Baltimore, to Atlanta. I know I've had success recruiting Atlanta. Where I was at before, Lyndon Johnson, who's down there, recruited Nick Brigham. We had a tie with Nick from when we were at Connecticut. We were recruiting Nick when we were at Connecticut. Nick was born in Hartford. And then Tom Bratton, recruited Amba and Alvin, and then McEachran. Lyndon, was in that school before as well. So, we have coaches that have had connections down there, and I think that's all part of recruiting, in terms of, going to where coaches have relationships. We might be down in Florida, a little bit more, next year in terms of, where we're going to have probably Mike have an area down there, and then Brian, because they've had histories of recruiting in those areas. So that's what you do. You go, and again, Georgia football is good football, and kids are well coached. And like I said, there's good academics, there in Georgia as well.
So,
I'm just curious, when you mentioned Abner, and I know Sean Davis too, they played in leagues where there are not a lot of guys who have similar skill level or size. And how do you evaluate guys in leagues like that, where you look at the competition and it's a step below what they're at? Is it difficult to kind of look at that from a perspective, or are you able to recognize talent? Yeah.
Well, I would hope that we're able to recognize talent wherever it is. It's no different than you take a look at in the NFL. There's guys at Division III, Division II who are good players, that get drafted in the NFL. So what you do is you always investigate every possible lead that you have. The big thing was Sean came up here for our camp, so we could see Sean, up close and personal. And so you watch the tape, but then when you see him come and he works out for you live, then it sells itself. I mean, he basically sold himself. And that was one where, I love the kid to death. Sean wanted to come from the very beginning. His mom will probably get mad at me for all this, but she loves me now. At first, she wasn't too keen on him coming to Maryland. But Sean really wanted to come to Maryland, and eventually he's the coach. He says, I want to come, I got to get my mom. So I told him, I said, this is what you have to tell her. This is what you need to tell your mom. And, so he did, and his mom ended up, falling in love, and glad that she, was supportive of him to come here. So, sometimes in recruiting, there's all kinds of, innuendos that you have to go through. But, and again, that's all part of the relationships you build with the players that, sometimes you have to help them through things, but again, wherever if we think that there's players, and Lyndon did a great job. Lyndon did a great job, and one of the things that happened there is Coach Engelberger, ended up bringing one of his players up to Connecticut when I was up there. So we ended up knowing him, and it's the other thing with Sean. I mean, Sean was a young man who, people came after him all the way till the end. Other ACC schools, Big Ten schools, kept coming after him until the very end. And he said, no, I'm going to Maryland. And, it tells you something. It tells you something about, his character.
All
right, folks, we're going to call it there. Thank